I just got done watching The Menu. This is a brand new horror comedy that's kind of a whole satirical nature towards whatever your obsession might be, but it's set in the food world as a young couple travels to a remote island to eat at an exclusive restaurant where the chef has prepared a lavish menu with some shocking surprises. Now, this stars the likes of Ralph Fiennes, Anya Taylor Joy, Nicholas Hoult, John Leguizamo, and many more. And I never saw a trailer for this movie. All I'd heard was the buzz coming out of like film festivals, as well as just people's reactions. And I read the synopsis, and that's all about I needed to see, plus watching and seeing the poster, but never saw a trailer for this. So I didn't know what to expect at all with this movie. And what I will say is that if you have never seen a trailer for this, keep it that way. That was the best experience going into this movie, because after watching this film, I loved it. I would go as far as say I don't even think I really have too many issues with the movie. Like, no movie is ever perfect. But when you look at a personal biasness, I didn't have too many complaints. And that just makes how sharp and brilliant this movie is as it discusses and dissects your obsession. And again, it's set in the food world, so a lot of people who are really into food and cooking and everything like that, you're definitely going to have a lot of different experiences with this film. For some reason, you're also obsessed with like something else. Like for me, movies and TV. I could see myself within this, with certain people within this industry and how it all plays out with that. And what I will say is, me reading the synopsis, you hear about food and you hear about some shocking surprises. I will tell you right now, the first thing coming to your head is not the exact thing that happens in here. This movie goes from twist to turn, and it was a movie that I never really wanted to end. And I got a lot of thoughts, but I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as leave your thoughts down there once again. But without further ado, let's dive into my pros. And first off, I want to talk about Mark Mylad's directing, as well as the writers Seth Reis and Will Tracy. Now, I am not familiar with many things that they have ever done, but bravo in this script. Because like I said, this is a film that I didn't want to end. I wanted to keep living in this world. And there's a certain film I actually want to compare it to, but if I compare it to it, actually might give off a different vibe of how this film is. And I don't want you to ever, I want you to go into this movie as blind as possible. So that's why I'm going to kind of remain as vague as possible as I can. But their writing and the direction in here is just so on point. Every single line of dialogue, every single sequence and scene plays off and builds onto the next one. And something that's mentioned maybe 35 minutes in pays off towards the ending. There's things like that. That's what makes such a smart script, and as it gets darker and darker as it goes along, but it never feels out of line or out of tone. It always feels precise. And the director, Mark, had to walk a very fine line with the script, from balancing it as a horror and a thriller, also making sure to dissect and keep the satirical nature there. This is a film where you're going to laugh your ass off at times, but then at the same instance be completely terrified and wonder, how is this going about? This is one of those movies that I sadly do not think people will see in theaters, and they'll end up discovering it on like Hulu or HBO Max and absolutely falling in love with it like I did. And I'm very happy that I got to see it in theaters, because the second it ended, I wanted to just go back and rewatch it one more time, because I had so much fun with it. I had a blast with this movie, trying to guess each and every turn and trying to guess what character moments would go here. And it's a great dissection, again, of obsession with a particular hobby or chore that you might love, all taking place in the food industry. And food is something that a lot of us are super into, because one, we all have to eat it. We love eating food. We love eating desserts and tasting that yummy goodness. But what if it becomes a nightmare? That's how it can seem in here, and I love it. And a lot of that also goes down to the performances. Now, first off, Nicholas Hoult I've really loved in here, and he gives some damn Bruce Wayne energy in the suit and just his attire. And I know he was actually up to play the Robert Pattinson Batman, which I will say this, like, that Bruce Wayne version that we did get with Robert Pattinson is completely different than how I would ever imagine Nicholas Hoult. But in an alternate universe, if he were to have become Batman or Bruce Wayne, that guy would have done just great. But I'm going off on a tangent. He's fantastic in here. Really dug him, and really much the entire supporting cast does a great job. Like, whether it's Chau, who plays Elsa in here, she's scary, terrifying. Christina Brocto, who plays Catherine in here, just her small little lines. Reed Birney, Peter Grosz, Bob Yang, Paul Aldestein, Arturo Castro, John Leguizamo, Janet McTeer. I mean, the list goes on and on from there. When you look at this film, it's Anya Taylor Joy and Ralph Fiennes, two of the finest actors working right now, going off with one another with this exquisite and incredible dialogue. As Anya Taylor Joy is this girl who's not really into this food at all and doesn't really want to eat all this fancy shit, and Ralph Fiennes is this top tier chef who takes kind of this affinity towards her. And seeing where this goes, that dynamic, every single second they have a conversation, you are lingered on each and every word. Specifically, even when more revelations start to come out with everything else involving the kitchen crew, involving everyone else. And it was great. It was great to see all of the actors really being able to play off of how Ralph Fiennes is. And there's one other thing I have to say is just a technical achievement. Ralph Fiennes does one thing in here where it's a clap. Now, I'm not going to clap because I don't want to break out the microphone and kill your guys' ears, but he does this loud clap. And all the other people, all of his crew, just stops in place and just sits there. And they're just, yes, chef. And it's like a cult feeling, to be honest. It's scary. It's horrifying. And every time you hear that clap, the first few times you're like, okay, it gets so unsettling. The more and more it goes. And the more the meals turn on. The more the courses go on. Because it's more than just a four-course meal. They got to go through all of it. They got to explain it, give a story. He's one of those types of chefs. And I loved it. I love seeing the obsession with these. And in general, what brings all of the other people there to this island. It's all fascinating. And it hands down, again, was my favorite element of this entire film, was just how everything was truly working in harmony. And I couldn't get enough of it. I think that's where I just go as far to say I truly didn't have too many issues with the menu. And anything I really would mention would just pretty much be a nitpick. I was fully invested in this film. Any questions I had pretty much got answered. Any questions you might have in the start of this, or maybe things that you'd be like, oh, I kind of want a little bit more of this. Because specifically, one of the issues I had midway through the movie was I was like, okay, why is Anya Taylor Joy with Nicholas Hoult? There's certain things that he's saying to her that I'm just like, you two are not an equivalent match. But then, like 20 minutes later, I started to kind of get the gist of what was going on. And that's what's so smart about this movie, is that all your questions, for the most part, get answered. And any other questions you can kind of just put into your mind, and they're nothing that really affects the story all too heavily. So with all that said, I loved the menu. And I think a lot of you guys should absolutely search it out when it finally releases. I mean it, because the menu is brilliant. It's a delicious satire that bites right into any industry that people obsess over. It's a haunting watch, but one that will have you laughing and completely in love with the script. I did not want this movie to end, and I could not get enough of it. So with all that said, I'm going to give the menu an A. Thank you so much again, guys, for watching this. You guys are really all the best. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below your thoughts, and of course, until next time, stay classy.